Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by William DeBoer. And William DeBoer writes, "Hey, John, a couple of years ago, we had a great string of solid little lower budget horror movies, and my favorite out of all of them was Don't Breathe." I love Don't Breathe. It's so funny that a couple of friends and I were talking the other day about wishing they'd do another, and then I just read that they just actually finished shooting the sequel. What did you think of the first one, and are you excited for the new one? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, count me in as a big fan of Don't Breathe. Stephen Lang's little horror film. Some people say it's not horror. It's horror. There's no supernatural stuff in it, but it's horror nonetheless. Stephen Lang's little film. It's tense. I remember I saw that in theater. It was me and John Schnepp went to go see it at a press screen together. And we came over like, oh my God, like that was crazy fun. I enjoyed it a great deal. And of course, at the end, it does leave it open-ended a little bit for if they want to come back, and if it was successful, they could come back and do a sequel. Well, they are doing a sequel. And whether it's completely finished shooting or not, I'm not 100% sure. What actually happened is Stephen Lang came out and said he's finished shooting it, and he is the main character. So maybe they're still doing some pickup shots, but for all intents and purposes, basically speaking, they've done shooting Don't Breathe 2. Here's a little bit of breakdown of where they're going with Don't Breathe 2, and it's pretty interesting. This is what's written over at Bloody Disgusting. They write, Don't Breathe 2 is set several years after the home invasion of the first movie, with the blind man, as we know him, played by Stephen Lang, living in quiet solace until his past sins catch up to him. Bloody Disgusting was able to obtain more information, learning that in Don't Breathe 2, the blind man has been hiding out for years in an isolated cabin and has taken in and raised a young girl orphaned from a house fire. Their quiet existence is shattered when a group of kidnappers show up and take the girl, forcing the blind man to leave his safe haven to save her. So that is the synopsis and what were the information we're getting out of Don't Breathe 2. Of course, the interesting thing here is that this completely changes our perception and the perspective of the blind man, of Stephen Lang's blind man character. Because in the first film, spoiler alert, he's the boogie monster. He's the guy everybody's running from. Like, he's the bad guy, per se. Now, of course, in the first movie, one of the things I love about it was they set it up was like, no, this was a regular good man who had something horrible happen to him. And for those of you who maybe haven't seen it yet, I won't give away the whole movie, but something unspeakably, heartbreakingly horrible happened to that guy. And the best supervillains, Rob, you and I have said this before, the best supervillains are the ones that are born out of pain. Those are usually the best kind of supervillain. And Blind Man's not a supervillain per se. And of course, he escapes at the end. He gets away at the end as the big monster. And now it looks like he's turning from the antagonist, and he's going to be the protagonist.
I really like that.
Yeah, like you read this, Rob. What's your take on this?
Well, I think that they've flipped the script. I mean, what were they going to do? Have kids break into a new house? I mean, I love this idea because he was a pretty monstrous villain, but there's a reason why he was monstrous. And I like that this carries forward the concepts of his character, like what he wanted. And the ways that he was going about getting a family in the first movie was pretty hardcore. So this seems to me a really interesting way to move this franchise forward. And I like the idea. I really, really, really like the first film a lot. Dude, really knocked me out. It's so well directed.
Oh, and here's the thing. One of the great things they did in that first one was that they found a way to strike this really amazing balance between being absolutely horrified by what this dude was doing, and yet at the same time understanding what brought him to that point. You as an audience member, in the midst of being repulsed by him and his actions, at the same time you felt empathy for him because of what brought him to that point and it's incredible. It's a very difficult balancing line for a filmmaker to bring a character to. In some ways, it's kind of like Thanos, right? In some ways, like Thanos is like, this is horrific. He's trying to wipe out half the universe. He saw his home world destroyed, his like all this kind of stuff. People wouldn't listen to him and blah, blah. So Thanos was kind of a character that you were horrified by, yet also felt some empathy toward what his self-perceived goals were. And they kind of did that with Blind Man as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can bring that full circle. Like, when I sit down to watch this, Rob, am I going to see this heroic figure who has taken in an orphan girl because of maybe he feels an attachment because of the way he lost his daughter or whatever, and now he's going to save her when some bad men? Or am I going to see this monster that did a lot of the things that we saw him do in the first movie? And I don't know which one I'm going to see. Like, how am I going to perceive him? Can we, Rob, let me ask you this seriously, like, understanding this character, are we going, and we don't know what they're going to try to do with him in the second one, but if they try to kind of make him the hero, are we as an audience who have seen the first film, are we going to be able to look at him as a hero? Like, are we going to be able to do that? What do you think?
That's going to be, I mean, it's going to be tough because what he was trying to do in the first movie is pretty diabolically evil. I mean, I shouldn't say evil because it's all, what he's doing is all wrapped up in his pathology about and what he lost, right, and what he's trying to get back. It's just that in order to do that, he's taken away the rights of other human beings in order to achieve his goals. And that, I think, is monstrously evil. That said, however he got his ward, his young charge, I think anytime you put a man into a position of a father figure where he's going to rescue a daughter or a surrogate daughter or anything, the audience immediately sympathizes with that plight. So if it's done well, maybe we'll forget about the first movie for a while.
We saw a little bit of that in Rambo Last Blood, right? With Rambo Last Blood, they gave us a little bit of that's a good observation. That's really good. Question is, guys, what do you listen, I'm not going to lie. I'm excited to see Don't Breathe 2. I find their description of trying to suddenly making him the the protagonist, that's kind of interesting. Are they going to be able to pull it off? I don't know. Guys, question is, what do you think about this? Jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts. All right, guys.